And now, this week's Two Grumpy Critics question.
So this week we talk music, specifically other people's music. Cover versions get a bad rap because many times out of 10, it's some schmo plucking away at a guitar, ruining a song that you love. Seriously, what stones do you need to listen to Hey Jude and seriously think, wow, that's a great song, but I think I can do it better? But tonight, we talk about the cover versions that actually worked. The times when an artist took a song maybe in a different direction or added a twist to it that made it great.
Well, I am a cover version aficionado.
Oh.
I am a huge fan of cover versions. I seek them out like the 20-year-olds sought out Beanie Babies in the early 90s. I mean, I really do. I really enjoy them. Even the bad ones I have fun with because I enjoy hearing someone's different take on a classic or on an existing song. So I really like them. And that's why it's funny that when you proposed this question, I couldn't think of anything. My mind just went blank.
Wow.
Yeah, but after I sat down for a while, and they started to roll in, and then I couldn't stop them.
Yes,
so, I was like, oh yeah, that one, oh, and that one, and that one, and that one, and so I limited myself to 3 for the purpose of tonight's discussion. Now, my question is does it really count if you didn't realize it was a cover version until more than a decade after you fell in love with it?
Oh, I think that counts a lot. I think in a lot of ways, mashups. You can tell a good mashup by whether it sounds like a real song or not. Yeah. And I think a good cover version works based on whether it sounds like it's not a cover version.
Right. Well, and the reason I ask is because that fits my very first pick and the first one I thought of, and that's a song that came out in 1981, and I didn't realize it was a cover version until probably 20 years later, and that's Tainted Love by Soft Cell.
Right, yes. I
mean, that was a huge MTV hit. Would have never heard of Soft Cell were it not for MTV, at least in my neck of the woods. Mm-hmm. And in 1981, that song took the video world by storm, and it was in heavy rotation for a while. At least it felt like it was. And I loved it. I love that song, and I love it today. And it wasn't until much later that I realized that it was a cover version from a song in 1965. As a matter of fact, I think it was you who pointed it out to me. I think you even sent me the YouTube link to the artist named Gloria Jones, who did the song.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. That was probably 10, 15 years ago when you did that. But I was like, no way. And the original version is unique. I mean, it's a very odd sounding tune, but I love what Soft Cell did with it. And it's just a fantastic cover. Love it. The second one I thought of is, I don't know if it was ever released as a single or if it just got huge by proxy, but it was a song that was performed on MTV's Unplugged in 1993, and it was 10,000 Maniacs doing Because the Night.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if they ever, I mean, it was never on an album unless there was there was an Unplugged album, I should say, because I even had that CD. So I don't know if it was officially released as a single or if it just took off because it is a killer version of that song. And I knew that Patti Smith performed it originally.
Right.
She released it in 1978. What I didn't know was that Bruce Springsteen co-wrote it.
Oh, I didn't know that either.
Yeah, Springsteen was going to actually do it on one of his albums, but it didn't make the cut. So he and Patti Smith actually wrote it together. Springsteen was going to do it. He didn't. Gave it to her. Said, I can't fit this on my album. You take it. And she ran with it. It's a great, great tune. Mm-hmm. And 10,000 Maniacs just blew it out of the water when they did Unplugged in 93. I mean, that was unquestionably the highlight of that show and that album.
Absolutely. I had no idea that was a cover version. This is literally news to me.
See? There you go. Look up Patti Smith's album from 1978. I can't remember the title of the album, but yeah. And I think you'll agree that 10,000 Maniacs eclipsed it somewhat.
Yeah.
And finally, one of my favorites of all time, at least of the ones that came to me right away when thinking about this, was a 1978 performance by the Talking Heads of Al Green's Take Me to the River.
Oh, great choice.
They just nailed that song. They do it so well, and they do it even better on the Stop Making Sense album and movie. Uh-huh. I mean, they kill it in that show. And they take everything that's great in Al Green and they keep it, and then they add their own Talking Heads twist. David Byrne is all over that song, but yet there's not an ounce of Al Green's soul that was removed from it to make David Byrne's vision come out in that. And I just thought he treated it respectfully, yet did it in his own style. And I think that's as much as you can alter a song without altering it.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love it. Of course, Al Green did it. It was back in 1974. It was great when he did it, and great when the Talking Heads did it years later.
Great choice.
How about yours?
Well, for my first choice, I've always quite enjoyed the Alan Parsons Project song "Eye in the Sky." It was a nice, indeed, yes. It was a nice, upbeat, jaunty 80s toe tapper, but I never really thought much of it beyond that. And then came along one of my favourite singer-songwriters, Jonathan Brooke, whose voice makes me melt into the carpet at the best of times. Mm-hmm. She took "Eye in the Sky," slowed it down, stripped it down, and injected a level of emotion that for me had been missing from the original. But Spike, I hear you cry. How can a song not be emotional until someone else covered it? And I say to you this: Alan Parsons and his Fairlight CMI made a very palatable early 80s ditty. But the guy singing was devoid of any sort of inflection. Be honest, great song, probably not the best delivery. Jonathan's version puts all that emotion back in to the point that the lyrics I'd been listening to for decades actually started to mean something. I mean, the sun in your eyes made some of the lies worth believing. That's just some great songwriting right there. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until there was less of the song presented that more of the song became apparent, if you catch my drift. So "Eye in the Sky" by Jonathan Brooke. Look it up. It's creepy. I mean, it's the stuff that nightmares are made of. Right.
In a good way. I mean, it's exactly what you're saying. I mean, it more accurately conveys the tone, although I think that's what is kind of smart about the Alan Parsons Project is it's saying very creepy things with a big smile on it's very John Wayne Gacy-ish, you know what I mean?
That's true.
You know, just the juxtaposition of sound versus content.
Right. For my next one, before it was amusing to do ironic cover versions of popular songs, a group from Glasgow named Travis were being interviewed and doing a bit of a session on BBC Radio 1. Now, this doing a bit of a session is where a group comes into a radio studio and performs some songs, different from the "a bit of a session" or "sesh," he said in air quotes, that most younger people will be familiar with. No. Travis, a group whose style loaned itself well to being acoustic, were in the Radio 1 studios to perform songs, and apparently, on a whim, decided to perform not one of their many hits, but instead a version of Britney Spears' "Hit Me Baby One More Time." Again, remember, this was in the days before the beard-scratching hipster bands would do this sort of thing, and around the time that the song was riding high in the charts. They made it into a yearning love song, and the funny thing was, it worked. It sounded amazing, far beyond the electro-pop orchestra hits that plagued the original. So I don't know if we're going to be able to find that one to put it on the playlist because it was a sesh, as they say. But great version
somewhere.
I'm sure it is. Be on the YouTube. Finally, it's hard to take on a classic, and an iconic classic at that. Now, I never counted myself as being a huge Pink Floyd fan, more of a Pink Floyd appreciator, which is maybe why I'm going to stray into territory that some people who are Pink Floyd fanatics may find offensive. Picture it. Britain, 1998. Radiohead teamed up with a lo-fi outfit called Sparkle Horse, who, it turned out, was just one bloke called Mark, to create a vision of Wish You Were Here. A bold move, it being one of the Floyd's signature songs, but they knocked it out of the park. as far away as possible from the Scissor Sisters' disco version of Comfortably Numb, which is brilliant in its own way and gets an honourable mention. Sparkle Horse and Radiohead's Wish You Were Here isn't a like-for-like copy of the original, although it does keep the beautiful sadness with Tom York's low bitrate vocals layered over a quiet piano and a subtle acoustic guitar. What sticks out is the dreamy quality. Where Pink Floyd's was just plain heartbreaking, this one is the stuff of fever dreams downplayed to perfection.
A Radio 6 international production from the USA. Copyright 2018.